The man they had just turned away from the front desk was the one who owned the building. He did not say that. He picked up his bag, a canvas duffel, worn at one strap, the kind that suggests function over anything else, and walked to the chairs near the window. He sat down. He looked out at the parking lot. The afternoon light came through the glass at a low angle and cast a pale stripe across the floor. His name was Owen Carter. He was 51 years old. He had driven 4 hours from Denver to reach the Aldridge, a hotel in Scottsdale that his company had acquired 14 months ago. The renovation had taken 11 of those months. Today was the soft opening. He had not told anyone he was coming. The front desk associate who had turned him away was a young man named Preston Waverly. Preston was 24, had been at the property for 3 weeks, and had memorized the hotel's new brand standard to a degree that his supervisor, a woman named Gwendolyn Fitch, had described in his last check-in as genuinely impressive. Preston knew the dress code. He knew that the Aldridge, repositioned as a luxury desert retreat with a starting room rate of $480 a night, attracted a particular kind of guest. He believed he had developed an eye for it. When Owen had walked in through the automatic doors, Preston had taken in the canvas bag. The jeans, straight cut, no particular label visible. The gray Henley untucked. The boots, practical, well broken in and not decorative. He had made a calculation that took roughly 4 seconds. "Good afternoon," Preston had said. "Do you have a reservation?" "I do," Owen said. He gave his name. Preston typed it in. He frowned at the screen. "I'm not finding anything under that name. Try the company name. Vantage Hospitality." Preston typed again. His expression did not change, but something behind it shifted. "I see a block reservation under that name, but those rooms are held for corporate representatives and members of the review team." "That's right. I'm going to need some documentation. A confirmation email, a badge, something from the corporate office." Owen reached into his jacket pocket and produced a business card. He placed it on the counter. Pressed at it, the card read, "Owen Carter, Chairman, Vantage Hospitality Group." It had no logo, no decorative elements, just the name, the title, and a phone number. "I'm sure you understand," Preston said, his voice carefully neutral. "We've had situations where—" "I'll wait over there," Owen said. He picked up his card and his bag. He walked to the chairs by the window. Preston watched him go. Then he picked up the desk phone and called Gwendolyn Fitch. Gwendolyn was on the pool deck reviewing the afternoon's setup when her phone rang. She listened to Preston's description. Her eyes moved to the lobby doors, which were visible through the glass panel at the far end of the corridor. "What does described?" "The bag, the jeans, the Henley. And he gave you a business card." "Yes. What did you do with it?" A pause. He took it back. Gwendolyn closed her eyes for 1 second. "I'll be right there." She walked quickly but did not run. She was 38, had spent 15 years in hotel management, and had learned early that running in a lobby communicated panic to guests in a way that was difficult to recover from. She came through the side corridor and scanned the lobby. She saw a man sitting by the window, canvas bag on the floor beside him. He was not on his phone. He was not reading. He was looking out at the parking lot with the settled patience of someone who had nothing to prove and nowhere he needed to be. She knew before she reached him that Preston had made a mistake. She did not yet know the scale of it. "Mr. Carter," she said. He looked up. His expression did not register irritation or satisfaction. It was simply present. "I'm Gwendolyn Fitch, Director of Operations. I apologize for the delay. We have your suite ready," he said. He stood, picked up his bag. "Can I have someone take that for you?" "No," he said pleasantly. "I've got it." The suite on the 4th floor had floor-to-ceiling windows on the south and west walls. The renovation team had argued for months about the window treatments. Owen had sided with the architect on the sheer panels rather than the blackout option as the primary layer. And standing in the room now, with the late afternoon desert light coming through at that particular angle, he thought they had been right. The saguaros in the distance were outlined in gold. He set his bag on the luggage rack. He filled a glass of water from the carafe on the credenza. He stood at the window and drank it. His phone showed 4 missed calls, 2 from his operations director, 1 from the renovation project manager, 1 from a number he didn't recognize. He set the phone face down on the desk. He had not come to inspect anything, or rather, he had not come only to inspect. He had driven out because his daughter had called him 3 weeks ago and said quietly, in the way she said things when she was trying not to sound like she was asking for something, "Dad, are you okay? You haven't taken a day off since the Aldridge deal closed." Her name was Paige. She was 26 and had his same quality of understatement, which made it easy to miss when she was worried. He had told her he was fine. He had then spent 3 more weeks not taking a day off, and then on a Tuesday morning he had looked at his calendar, cleared 2 days, and gotten in the car. That was not how he would have explained it to anyone. He would have said he wanted to do a ground-level assessment of the soft opening operations, which was also true. He came down to the restaurant at 7 without a reservation. The host stand was attended by a young woman named Celeste Darrow, who had started at the property 6 weeks ago during the pre-opening phase. She was organized, attentive, and had the particular skill of making guests feel that the table she was showing them to was the best one in the room regardless of where it was located. "Do you have a reservation this evening, sir?" she asked. "I don't," Owen said. "I was hoping you might be able to accommodate me." Celeste scanned her tablet. "It'll be about a 30-minute wait. Can I get your name?" "Carter." "Perfect, Mr. Carter. I'll come find you at the bar." He went to the bar. He ordered a club soda. He sat and watched the room. The restaurant was called Cobre. It had been designed around the idea of contemporary Southwestern cuisine, and the team had, he thought, executed it well. The light fixtures were hammered copper. The menu had been developed by a chef named Rosario Vega, who had come from a well-regarded restaurant in Santa Fe, and whose roasted lamb he had eaten at a tasting 5 months ago, and still remembered clearly. At the table to his left, a couple was celebrating something. There was a small arrangement of flowers and what appeared to be a birthday card. The woman was laughing. The man was trying to pour champagne without spilling it, and not quite succeeding. At the table near the window, a family of 4 was negotiating the menu with 2 children who seemed to disagree about everything except their mutual preference for not being at a restaurant. Owen watched all of this without appearing to watch it. The bar was attended by a man named Ford Calloway. Ford had been in the industry 11 years, had transferred from one of Vantage's properties in Nashville, and was, by Owen's observation over the next 20 minutes, excellent. He remembered names after one introduction. He refilled glasses before guests noticed they were low. He had the specific gift of making a solo diner at the bar feel neither ignored nor overattended. "Slow start to the evening?" Owen asked. Ford looked down the bar. 3 other guests, spread out. "Soft opening tends to run quiet early. Picks up after 8, usually. You staying with us?" "I am first time at the Aldridge." "In this form," Owen said. Ford considered this for a moment, then decided not to ask what it meant. He excused himself to check on the other end of the bar. Celeste came for Owen at 7:40. She brought him to a 2-top near the inner wall, which was not the most desirable table in the room. That would be the ones along the south windows, but was well positioned, not too close to the kitchen pass, with a clear sightline to most of the dining room. He wondered if she had placed him there deliberately or coincidentally. He decided it didn't matter. Rosario Vega came out of the kitchen at 8:15. She did a circuit of the dining room, stopping briefly at several tables. Not at everyone, and not in a way that felt performed. When she reached Owen's table, she introduced herself simply. "How is the lamb?" he asked. He had ordered it. "Honest answer," she said. "Please. The render on the shoulder is 4 minutes short of where I want it. The oven calibration is still being corrected. By next week it will be right. Tonight it is very good. Not what it will be." "That's a fair answer," he said. She looked at him for a moment. Something in his face, perhaps, or the way he had responded. She did not say anything else. She nodded and moved on. He was finishing his coffee when Gwendolyn came into the restaurant. She saw him cross the room and stopped at a respectful distance. "Mr. Carter, I hope the evening was—" "Sit down, Gwendolyn," he said. She did. She folded her hands on the table and waited. "Tell me about Preston," he said. She had been expecting this. "He's a strong team member. He has a tendency to lead with the checklist. We've been working on it." "I was told about it, yes." "What did you tell him afterward?" She was quiet for a moment. "I explained the error. I explained who you were. That's the wrong correction," Owen said. Gwendolyn looked at him. "The error wasn't that he didn't know who I was. A guest who is staying in a $480 room has the right to be received with basic dignity, whether they're carrying a Louis Vuitton trunk or a gym bag. That's not a function of confirming identity. That's a function of how we treat people." "You're right," she said, without hesitation. Not defensively. He appreciated that. "He's not being fired," Owen said. "That's not what this is. But the correction needs to be about the behavior, not the consequence of the behavior. Do you understand the difference? The consequence was that he didn't recognize you. The behavior was that he made a judgment call based on appearance before he had any information." "Yes." She nodded slowly. She would handle it, he could tell. "The room is excellent," he said. "The window decision was correct. The restaurant is strong. Rosario is very good, and she's honest about where the food isn't at its best yet, which is a quality I value. Ford at the bar is one of the best I've seen at a soft opening. Celeste on host is solid. He paused. The lobby needs one more piece of art on the east wall. There's a gap there that reads as unfinished. I'll send you a note about a sculptor we've worked with in Tucson. Gwendolyn had taken out a small notepad without being asked and was writing. That's all, he said. She stood. Thank you for coming in person. I always do, he said. People behave differently when they think no one is watching. I like to know what the actual baseline is. He went back to the bar after dinner, not because he wanted another drink. He ordered a second club soda, but because he liked the room at that hour when the dinner service was winding down and the light shifted. The hammered copper caught the overhead light differently when the room was less full. Ford brought the soda and did not hover. Owen thought about what Gwendolyn had said. The correction needs to be about the behavior, not the consequence. He had meant it when he said it. He had also meant it when he said Preston would not be fired. The young man had made the kind of mistake that was, in Owen's experience, more common than the industry liked to admit. The quick visual scan, the calibrated assumption, the decision made before the conversation began. Hotels were designed around comfort and aspiration, which meant the staff were, consciously or not, trained to look for signals. The problem was that the signals were not reliable. They had never been reliable. And in an industry built on hospitality, that particular failure cost more than any single misjudged guest. He had learned this not from a management seminar. He had learned it 23 years ago, when he was 28 and working his first front desk job at a mid-tier property in Columbus. A man had come in on a Wednesday afternoon in work clothes, Carhartt jacket, muddy boots, the smell of a long drive on him. Owen had been polite but not warm. He had processed the check-in efficiently and without engagement. The man had turned out to be the regional VP of the company that owned the property. He had not said anything to Owen directly. He had, however, noted the interaction in a report, and Owen's supervisor had called him in the next morning. The supervisor, a woman named Ruth, had not been unkind. She had said, "The problem isn't that you didn't know who he was. The problem is that you would have treated him the same way if he'd been nobody. And that's who most people are, Owen. Nobody famous, just people trying to get somewhere." He had thought about Ruth many times in the years since. He did not know what had happened to her. He hoped she had done well. At 10:15, his phone rang. It was his operations director, a man named Stuart Braddock, who had apparently noticed the cleared calendar and put things together. "You're out there, aren't you?" Stuart said. It was not quite a question. "I drove up this afternoon and it's good. There are things to correct. Nothing structural, Preston Waverly." Owen said nothing for a moment. "You heard? Gwendolyn called me an hour ago. She wanted to get ahead of it. She's going to be fine," Owen said. "She handled it correctly. And Waverly, additional coaching. The substance of it matters. It can't just be about recognizing important guests. It has to be about how we receive people." Stuart was quiet. "Then, you're going to make that the subject of the next regional training, aren't you? I'm thinking about it. I'll put it on the calendar." A pause. "How are you, actually?" "I'm fine, Stuart. Paige called me." Owen looked at the copper fixture above the bar. "Did she?" "She didn't ask me to call you. She just checked in. She does that. She's worried you're going to drive yourself into the ground over the Aldridge deal." "The Aldridge deal is closed. The property is open. I'm sitting at the bar drinking club soda. That's somewhat reassuring. Good night, Stuart, good night." He ordered one more club soda. He sat until the bar quieted to just two other guests, a couple at the far end who were speaking quietly and clearly had no interest in anyone else. Ford was restocking glasses. The music had been lowered to the point where it was more texture than sound. Outside, through the window, the parking lot was mostly still. The desert beyond was invisible in the dark, but Owen knew it was there. The saguaros, the palo verde, the particular silence that the desert held at night. He had driven through it that afternoon. There was something about the scale of it that he had always found useful. Not comforting exactly, more like clarifying. He thought about the window treatments again. The sheer panels. The way the morning light would come through them and reach the south wall of the suite. He had not been wrong about that. He was rarely wrong about light. It was one of the few things in the business he trusted instinctively rather than analytically. His phone showed a text from Paige sent at 10:42. Saw the Aldridge opening on the company site. "Looks beautiful. Are you sleeping?" He typed back. "At the bar. Home tomorrow. The windows are good." A minute passed. Then, "I know you drove out there. Stuart didn't tell me. I just know you." He looked at the message for a moment. He typed, "You do." Then he put the phone in his pocket. He finished the club soda. He nodded to Ford, who nodded back. He walked to the elevator. The lobby was quiet. The east wall had a gap where the sculpture should be. He noticed it again, the slight imbalance in the room's proportions. The way the eye moved to that space and found nothing to settle on. He made a mental note to send the message to Gwendolyn first thing in the morning. He pressed the button for the 4th floor. The elevator doors closed. He thought about Ruth in Columbus, and the man in the Carhartt jacket, and the things she had said. Just people trying to get somewhere, and how it had taken him years to understand that she had not only been talking about guests. The doors opened. He walked down the corridor to his room. The key card worked on the first try. He went to the window. The desert was dark and very large. Somewhere out there, past the parking lot and the service road and the cluster of development along the highway, it simply continued. Unhurried, indifferent, exactly what it was. He stood there for a while. Then he turned off the light and went to bed.